Welcome to Think About It. I'm Sylvia Henderson, your host, and I invite you to tune in, take what you see and hear, and, well, think about it. So today I am talking to someone who's got an interesting title, that of a futurist. And we're going to talk about what that means in a minute or so. But first, my guest is Joyce Gioia, and she is a business futurist, a management consultant, a professional speaker, and a lot more. So Joyce, welcome to Think About It.
It's great to be with you, Sylvia. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I'm thrilled. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and now that we can do this remotely, this has been great to be able to get people in who I've wanted to get before, but you can't come into the studio physically because of where you live. So the term futurist, if anybody looks at your LinkedIn profile or website, they see that you identify yourself as either celebrity futurist or strategic business futurist. I'll tell you, when I first heard you identify yourself as a futurist, I had these visions of the carnival fortune teller, as politically incorrect as that might be.
Yeah, a lot of people say, "Are you a medium?" And I said, "Well, I probably have ESP, but no."
Yes. So obviously over the years, as I've known you and I've read your Herman Trend Alerts, which we'll talk about later, I know that there's a lot of real science, a lot of real research goes into what you do. But explain to people what in the world is a futurist and what you do.
A futurist is, well, my definition of a futurist is someone who helps people make better decisions by knowing what's coming. And we do that typically by looking at what happened in the past, what's happening now, and then project out what's going to be happening in the future. And you'll never hear a serious futurist use the term prediction. Because typically, what I say is it doesn't give us enough wiggle room. And what we typically do is give clients a range of forecasts. It could be here or it could be here.
Okay, so it's not like we read in the Wall Street Journal constantly the financial predictions and you know, and then they apologize when something comes up. So how did you start to do this and come into being a futurist?
Back in a long time ago, when I was 28, I was the publisher of a magazine called The Complete Buyer's Guide to Stereo Hi-Fi Equipment.
I remember that equipment.
And that was a mouthful, but it was a very well-respected magazine. And I discovered that if I could tell my clients who were the CEOs of the US arms of Japanese companies, or even the Japanese CEOs who spoke English, if I could tell them what was coming, then they appreciated it. And they appreciated it by buying more advertising from me. And I was able to double my advertising revenues 5 years in a row by being this resource to my clients. And I realized that a lot of people would like to know what's coming. And I wanted to help people figure out what was coming for them. And so I started studying. And eventually, a couple of years ago, I ended up at the University of Houston in Clear Lake at their Future Studies program. And I took a course, a certificate course in Future Studies, and I learned all the chapter and verse of what I had been doing for probably 20 years already.
Wow. So Future Studies is a thing.
Oh yes, Future Studies, yes. You used to be able to get a PhD in Future Studies.
Wow.
You can still get a master's online in Future Studies. And I believe from the University of Houston. But the terminal degree, you have to go, there's only a handful of places in the world where you can actually get a PhD in Future Studies.
So I'm going to ask, as viewers are thinking, so what's the future hold? But first, I want to find, so if I am a business owner or a business executive or an organization, whether it's a nonprofit or association, whatever, I know you speak to all sorts of groups, and I say, I want Joyce to help me with this. What do you do? What do you do when you actually perform your service?
When I work with organizations?
Yeah.
Well, I do mind mapping. I do looking at implications of what could happen. One time I was doing some work with the city of Charlotte with their managers, and I asked them to do a mind map of wildcards. Now, let me tell you what a mind map is, and let me tell you what a wild card is. First of all, the COVID crisis is a wild card. It's a man-made or natural event that seems to come out of nowhere, hits you, you're knocked off kilter, and pretty much nothing is ever the same.
Okay.
And this was before 2008. And I asked half the teams to look at what would happen if a positive event came to Charlotte, and the other half to look at what would happen if a negative event came to Charlotte. And two of my teams, and this was 2006, were looking at what would happen if there were a banking crisis. And Charlotte was a hub for the country for banking. National, some sort of bank big bank was headquartered there. And lo and behold, 2 years later, what happened? We had the Great Recession. There was a real banking crisis in Charlotte. And those folks knew what to do because they had been in that session. Okay, so what is a mind map? A mind map means that we put something in the middle of the page. And in this case, there's a banking crisis in Charlotte. And then we look at the implications of that happening. So there would be lower revenues coming into the city of Charlotte. The city of Charlotte would probably have to have a reduction in force. The tax base would suffer. I mean, and then you look at the implication of that, and you fill the page with implications of the implications.
Yeah.
Fascinating. It's a fascinating process. And that's one of the things that a futurist would do with an audience.
And that definitely emphasized the business value, because then, you're ready for that situation you're ready to react or to put in place a plan, that was thought of, rather than, oh my God, here we are, and moving forward.
The other thing that futurists do is something called scenario planning. And in that case, we look at typically we look at 3 or 4 different possible scenarios. And one is, I heard from a friend of mine who's a futurist, like the zombie apocalypse. And another one is spiritual awakening.
Okay.
Like everything comes out better because of it. And a third one might be something closer to what would be projected if you looked at the past, the present, and projected out the future in that middle. And then another one is kind of halfway between two of the positive and the zombie apocalypse. So,
okay, keep going.
No, go ahead.
Finish. Oh.
No,
so as you're saying that, because I know our interview is more conversational all the time. So as you're saying that, I'm thinking, is the business world today, with we baby boomers trickling out and millennials becoming they are the CEOs and the managers of today moving forward, and a new generation coming in with that millennial and younger generation being used to the video games, being used to the zombie TV shows on Netflix, being used to even the more you already said it, the more existential practices of yoga and other things. That's more prevalent now for that generation than it was for us as boomers. Do you find businesses more open to that kind of planning and visioning for future events than they were in the past?
I will tell you that there are, as vice chair of the Association of Professional Futurists, I can tell you, there are more companies that have resident futurists now than ever did in the past. And therefore, obviously, we have more members than we ever did in the past. Unfortunately, typically, because they're not considered for most organizations as required, they're not considered critical talent, critical members of the team, which it doesn't make any sense to me, of course. Therefore, when there is a recession, oftentimes they are the first to go. Now, does that make any sense? Surely not. But that's what will probably happen.
Okay. And that's the same, I think. So as a speaker and a trainer, and more trainer myself, I look at training is so key to employee development, but when something happens, a business event happens, training is one of the first things dropped, when it should be actually one of the things looked at even more. So same thing.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, before we get off the subject of that, I really would like to give you my advice for business leaders for now.
Okay.
We are in this COVID crisis. We're sheltering in place. Many of us are in touch with our teams remotely, and that's good. But there are three things that I think organizations need to be doing now. One is that the executives, whoever they are, business leaders, I don't care whether they're supervisors or managers or directors or vice presidents, need to be having regular meetings with their teams. And I would advise that they use a concept called I power when they do. And that is that people need to bring ideas to those meetings, ideas for making things better. And it doesn't matter how small or large they are, but they need to be generating those creative ideas.
And I'm going to have you leave people. I'm going to have you leave people in suspense.
Okay.
2 and 3 as soon as we get back, because we need to take a break, because this is like, ooh, I want to hear this. So,
Okay.
so with that, we'll be right back.
With coronavirus spreading, people at higher risk must take extra precautions. You're at higher risk if you're over 65 or if you have an underlying medical condition. Please visit coronavirus.gov for more information.
Oh, welcome back to Think About It. And we're still talking about, I'm still Sylvia, your host, and my guest is Joyce Gioia, and we're still talking about the now and the future of the workplace and of business. So Joyce, I cut you off. You were going to give us number 2 and number 3 points before we took a break. So
we were talking about what business leaders need to be doing right now to make sure that the talent, their teams of talented people, are there for them when we emerge from these home cocoons that we're in right now.
Yes.
And the first one was just basically having regular meetings online with everybody there who's on the team. The second one is that they need to be reaching out one-on-one with each of their valued employees, talking with them, taking a personal interest in what's going on with them, making sure that they have what they need, that they're okay emotionally and physically. And actually, there are going to be four things. The third thing is that they need to be using this time to upskill people, using folks like Sylvia or me to help people be better leaders when we're out of this, so that people have grown in spite of the fact that they've been sheltering in place. And then the fourth thing is to create what my friend Dan Burris calls a future lab among your team. That is 3 of your team members who are dedicated to thinking about the future of your team, of your function, of what you do within the grand scheme of the organization.
Wow, that's interesting. So as a business owner or a business leader or whatever, looking at, I'm opening up again, if I, or I'm back into business as best as I can be.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? What do you perceive that looking like? And what kinds of issues do you perceive I have to think about as that business owner moving forward?
Okay, we have to make some assumptions.
Okay.
The assumptions are that we have adequate testing, we have adequate contact tracing, and we are feeling secure about leaving our home cocoons and going to the office.
Okay.
If you are in some industries, you will want to test everybody before they go to their job, to their desks or to their job function, to make sure that you're not spreading disease. If you are in like white collar kinds of jobs, we'll be in spaces where the desks are separate or more separated. And for organizations that don't have the capability of separating people physically, they may have half the staff come in one day, or 75% of the staff come in one day and 25% of the staff will work from home, or they will work with the numbers so that they are able to do the social distancing that they need to do. And we will all be wearing masks until there is a vaccine and treatment, or treatment and a vaccine.
That has got to be, I would think businesses have to prepare for the communication difference when you're hidden from here down. And all the things that we see when we look at somebody, even in the camera, we can see facial expressions.
Micro expressions, right?
Yeah. What else do you see for business moving forward?
The businesses that cannot afford to keep people on because they're not going to be making the same amount of money, like restaurants and some hotels, are going to have a real difficult time re-recruiting those folks when the time comes. This is kind of what happened in the year 2000, when a lot of people left hospitality and discovered the wonderful world of white collar, never to go back to shift work and weekend work again. So there's going to be a real challenge for hoteliers, as if there wasn't before, in making sure that they have the staff that they need as they ramp up. And again, it has everything to do with taking care of people as much as you can now.
How do you perceive the shared economy changing? Because again, there was this whole shared economy that we were building towards, shared bikes and shared homes and shared cars and all of that.
It's going to be on hiatus or a slowdown for at least a year, because people will be not, I mean, a rental car company. So if I rent from Hertz and they bring a car to me and they say, I know that the person, because I can see that the person who drove the car to where it was wearing gloves. I can see, and they've told me that they're doing the extra cleaning. Right. But when you're talking about shared economy, you're going to have to, it's bring your own wipes, isn't it? And it's going to be full employment for the sanitizing, the companies making hand sanitizer for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. So if you could, and there's so much more that you could say about this, if you could leave viewers with sort of a final message about how to adjust their thinking, or what mindset they should have, or what they should think about for moving forward, for doing that strategizing, for having that person or two who's doing that thinking ahead, what would some of those words of advice be?
Well, I think that the first thing I would suggest, and you, I think, would chime in as well, is that they should sign up for my Herman Trend Alert.
Yes.
Because it will help you to stay out ahead of the curve and on the leading edge, and it'll give you information about many, many different areas. Fascinating.
And I'm going to interject too, because a lot of my viewers are either solo practitioners or very micro business owners and may be thinking, well, that's just corporate stuff. I'm going to tell you, I get that alert every week, and it's fascinating information. It's made me think about my two-person business and some of the things we need to think about. And it's in, when I say it's in English, you translate it in many languages, but it's for the layperson is probably the better word. So right. That's my little plug for that alert to sign up. So go back to your words of advice.
Okay, so we are currently in a different space, and we're not going to be in this space forever. On a personal note, make sure that you value the time that you have with your family, and make sure that your employees understand that you appreciate and value them and the contribution that they make to your organization. Then when we emerge on the other side of this, from our home cocoons, you will be in a much better space. Also, on a personal note, I find that I cannot be depressed when I'm looking at giving to others. So I have offered to do free coaching and consulting to anybody who wants to contact me. So far, one person has sent me an email, and we've already had our meeting. But I know that when I give to others, it comes back to me in so many ways. And the biggest way is that I get to feel good in that I have made a difference for somebody else.
Wow. That's something we should be doing always, but that is so poignant now. How do people reach you?
Okay. My email address is joyce@hermangroup.com, HERMANGROUP.com. And to sign up for the Herman Trend Alert, you can go to www.hermantrendalertcom, where you can sign up in Spanish or Portuguese. Can't sign up in Chinese, unfortunately, because it's just distributed over Baidu, which I believe is their version of Twitter in China. Okay. In any case, it'll give you the option of signing up in English or Spanish or Portuguese at www.hermantrendalertcom.
And let me see here. So I asked you what message you wanted to leave business with. Okay, I guess I wanted to end with maybe 1 to 2 succinct actions to do, other than sign up for Herman Trend Alerts. 2 succinct actions that they can do, as we'll look at about a minute or so left, to just stay in action, to stay in action and move forward. Especially that mindset. God, that's so important.
It is important. And it's really easy at this time to be distracted or even to be depressed about the numbers. Every time I see the number of people who have passed away as a result of this crisis, I'm affected by it. And I reach over and take my husband's hand and squeeze it. And it really touches me, because I know that's 60 plus thousands of people who have lost a loved one, who no longer have a father or a mother or a son or a daughter or an aunt or an uncle or an employee. And it makes me so grateful and feel so blessed that I have what I have, and I am who I am, and I'm safe.
Well, that makes me come to a close by saying, I appreciate you. I know we don't talk much, but it's so great when I see you on a call in another, environment. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate that you've spent some time today talking to my viewers about, with your perspective. So thank you, Joyce.
Thank you, Sylvia. And the next time I'm in Washington, we'll do it in person.
Okay. With masks, maybe, but
we'll see.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. And to everybody, as usual, I invite you to tune in, take what you see and hear, and, well, think about it. Check out some of the other programs on our playlist at Montgomery Municipal Cable TV. Thanks to MMC TV. I don't always shout out for the station itself. And most of all, in all of this craziness, I invite you to make a great day.